Good morning/afternoon/evenings, everyone. We've all been there, that moment when anger flares up, and before we know it, we say something we regret, make a choice that backfires, or let frustration dictate our actions. Anger is natural, it's human, but left unchecked, it can control us instead of the other way around. Today I want to share with you a new perspective on anger, not as something to fear, but as something to understand and master. Because when we learn to stay calm in the face of anger, we gain a superpower. One that strengthens our relationships, sharpens our decision-making, and ultimately brings us peace. We've all experienced moments when something seemingly small triggers a wave of anger. Maybe it's a careless comment from a coworker, a driver cutting you off in traffic, or a loved one not meeting your expectations. In those moments, it feels like anger appears out of nowhere, hijacking your thoughts and emotions before you even realize what's happening. But here's the truth. Anger doesn't just explode spontaneously. It's a reaction to a trigger. And recognizing that trigger is the first step toward regaining control. When we're angry, our natural instinct is to blame the external event. If they hadn't said that, I wouldn't be mad. If this situation were different, I'd be fine. But the reality is, the trigger isn't always about the event itself. It's about how we interpret it. Think of anger like a fire alarm. The alarm doesn't cause the fire, it alerts you to something that's already burning beneath the surface. Similarly, when something triggers our anger, it's often tapping into deeper feelings, hurt, fear, frustration, or even unmet expectations. For example, let's say you're in a meeting and your idea gets dismissed without much thought. On the surface, that dismissal triggers frustration, but if you pause and reflect, you might realize it's not just about the idea being overlooked. Maybe it's tapping into a deeper fear of not being respected or valued. Maybe it reminds you of a time in the past when your voice wasn't heard, making this moment feel more intense than it should. By recognizing that underlying trigger, you're not just reacting to the surface level event. You're understanding the root cause. This process of recognizing triggers isn't always easy, especially in the heat of the moment. Anger can be blinding, and our first instinct is to react. Snap back with a sharp comment, slam a door, or retreat into silence. But when we allow ourselves to slow down and ask, why am I feeling this way? We create space between the trigger and our response. That space is where control lives. One of the most powerful ways to recognize triggers is through self-awareness. It starts by paying attention to patterns in your anger. Are there certain situations, people, or environments that consistently push your buttons? Maybe it's feeling disrespected, being interrupted, or dealing with uncertainty. By identifying these patterns, you can anticipate potential triggers and prepare yourself to respond differently. Let's take a common scenario, getting stuck in traffic. For many people, traffic is a major trigger. But why? The cars aren't personally out to get you. The situation itself is neutral. The anger often stems from a deeper feeling, maybe a fear of being late, a sense of lost control, or frustration over wasted time. When you recognize that it's not the traffic, but your interpretation of the situation causing the anger, you can shift your perspective. Instead of stewing in frustration, you might use that time to listen to a podcast, reflect on your day, or simply practice patience. Another important part of recognizing triggers is understanding that they're deeply personal. What triggers one person might not affect someone else at all. For instance, a sarcastic joke might roll off one person's back but hit another person like a slap in the face. That's because our triggers are shaped by our experiences, beliefs, and even unresolved past emotions. The more you understand your personal history and what situations make you feel vulnerable, the better equipped you are to handle anger when it arises. It's also helpful to remember that recognizing a trigger doesn't mean suppressing your anger or pretending it doesn't exist. Anger is a valid emotion, and it serves a purpose. It signals that something feels off, unfair, or threatening. But when you recognize the trigger, you gain the ability to choose how to respond. You move from being a passive reactor to an active responder. Let's say a friend cancels plans at the last minute and you feel a surge of anger. Instead of immediately firing off a passive-aggressive text or cutting them off emotionally, take a moment to recognize the trigger. Maybe it's not just about the canceled plans, it's about feeling unimportant or disregarded. Once you've identified that, you can approach the situation with clarity. You might express how you feel in a calm, constructive way, or you might realize it's not worth the emotional energy and let it go. In the end, recognizing your triggers is about reclaiming your power. It's about understanding that while you can't always control what happens around you, you can control how you respond. Anger will still show up, it's part of being human, but when you know your triggers, you can meet that anger with awareness, not impulsiveness. And that awareness is the key to staying calm, even when emotions run high. When anger takes hold, it often feels like an unstoppable force. Your heart starts racing, your muscles tense up, and your mind narrows in on whatever or whoever is causing your frustration. It's in these moments that we tend to lash out, say things we don't mean, or act impulsively. But what if I told you that one of the most powerful tools to regain control isn't some complicated technique or long process? It's something as simple and natural as breathing. Breathing is the bridge between your mind and body. When we're calm, our breathing is slow and steady, but when anger or stress strikes, our breathing becomes rapid and shallow. This isn't just a coincidence. It's part of our body's natural fight or flight response. When you perceive a threat, your body prepares for action. Your heart pumps faster to deliver more blood to your muscles, and your breathing quickens to supply more oxygen. This response is great if you're facing a real danger, like needing to escape from harm. But in modern life, most of our threats aren't life or death situations. They're arguments with loved ones, frustrations at work, or feeling disrespected in everyday interactions. The problem is, our bodies don't always know the difference. This is where breathing comes in. By consciously controlling your breath, you send a powerful signal to your brain, I'm safe, I'm in control. When you slow your breathing, you engage the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for calming your body down after a stress response. It's like hitting the brakes on an emotional roller coaster. Suddenly, your heart rate slows, your muscles relax, and your mind becomes clearer. You're no longer a slave to your anger. You're back in the driver's seat. Let's break this down with a simple example. Imagine you're in a heated argument. Your voice is getting louder, your thoughts are racing, and you can feel that familiar rush of anger bubbling up. In that moment, your body is flooded with adrenaline, preparing for a fight. But if you pause, even for just a few seconds, and take a deep breath, something remarkable happens. Inhale slowly through your nose, feeling your belly expand. Hold that breath for a moment. Then exhale slowly through your mouth, releasing the tension with it. Repeat this a few times. You'll notice the intensity of your anger begins to fade. It doesn't mean the problem disappears, but you're now in a state where you can address it rationally instead of reacting impulsively. The beauty of this technique is its simplicity. You don't need special equipment or a quiet room. You can use it anywhere, during a stressful meeting, in traffic, or in the middle of a difficult conversation. And the more you practice it, the more effective it becomes. Over time, your body learns to associate deep, slow breathing with a state of calm, making it easier to access that calm even in the most challenging situations. Beyond just calming immediate anger, controlled breathing has long-term benefits for managing stress and emotional health. Regular practice can reduce anxiety, improve focus, and increase emotional resilience. It helps you become more aware of your emotional triggers and more skilled at navigating them. Think of it like building a muscle. The more you work on your breathing, the stronger your ability to stay calm under pressure becomes. There are many breathing techniques you can explore, but one of the simplest and most effective is called box breathing. It's used by everyone from athletes to Navy SEALs to manage stress and maintain focus in high-pressure situations. Here's how it works. Inhale for a count of 4. Hold your breath for 4 counts. Exhale for 4 counts, and hold again for 4 counts before repeating the cycle. This structured rhythm not only calms the nervous system, but also gives your mind something to focus on. pulling you away from the spiraling thoughts that often accompany anger. Another technique is the 4-7-8 method. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, and exhale for 8. The extended exhale is particularly powerful because it activates the body's relaxation response, helping to release tension and calm the mind. It's important to note that while breathing techniques are simple, they're not always easy in the heat of the moment. When anger strikes, our natural instinct is to react, not to pause and breathe. That's why it's crucial to practice these techniques regularly, not just when you're angry. By integrating mindful breathing into your daily routine, whether during a morning meditation, a quiet moment at your desk, or even while waiting in line, you train your body and mind to default to calmness more naturally. At its core, breathing is about more than just moving air in and out of your lungs. It's a tool for self-regulation, a way to connect with the present moment, and a reminder that you have the power to control your response to life's challenges. The next time you feel anger rising, remember, your breath is always with you, ready to guide you back to calm. All you have to do is take that first deep breath. When anger takes over, it often feels like the situation in front of us is the sole cause of our frustration. Someone cuts us off in traffic, and we immediately think, that person is so rude. A colleague dismisses our idea in a meeting, and we jump to, they don't respect me. A friend forgets to call back, and we conclude, they don't care about me. In each of these scenarios, anger flares because of the story we tell ourselves about what happened. But what if that story isn't the full picture? What if, by reframing the situation, we could change not just our emotional response, but the entire outcome? Reframing the situation means shifting the way we interpret events. It doesn't mean ignoring what happened or pretending everything is fine when it's not. Instead, it's about looking at the situation from a different angle, questioning the assumptions we make, and opening ourselves to alternative explanations. This mental shift can transform our anger into understanding, patience, or even empathy. Consider this. You're standing in line at a coffee shop and someone cuts in front of you. Your immediate reaction might be anger. How disrespectful. Who do they think they are? Your heart rate rises and you feel the urge to confront them. But what if you paused and asked yourself, is there another explanation? Maybe they genuinely didn't see you. Maybe they're late for an emergency, or perhaps they're having a terrible day. Reframing doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it helps you realize that not every action is a personal attack. By shifting your perspective, you reduce the emotional weight of the situation and prevent anger from taking control. This approach isn't just about minor annoyances. It can be applied to deeper, more personal conflicts as well. Imagine you've been working hard on a project and your manager criticizes your efforts. The story you might tell yourself is, they don't appreciate me. I'm not good enough. This narrative fuels anger, resentment, and even self-doubt. But if you reframe it, you might see it differently. Maybe they're pushing me because they believe I can do better. Maybe their feedback is an opportunity for growth. Suddenly, what felt like an attack becomes a chance to improve and learn. One of the key elements of reframing is recognizing that our emotions are often tied to expectations. We expect people to treat us a certain way, situations to unfold as we plan, and life to follow a script we've written in our minds. When reality doesn't match those expectations, frustration and anger arise. By adjusting our expectations or questioning whether they were realistic in the first place, we can reframe our emotional response. Let's say you planned a special evening with a friend, but they cancel at the last minute. Your initial reaction might be, they don't value my time, they're unreliable. But if you pause and consider the situation from their perspective, the story might change. Perhaps they had an unexpected work commitment or a personal issue they couldn't avoid. Maybe they were overwhelmed and didn't know how to say no earlier. Reframing allows you to approach the situation with compassion rather than anger, and it can lead to healthier communication and stronger relationships. It's also important to remember that reframing doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or tolerating repeated disrespect. It's about finding a balanced perspective that serves you emotionally. If someone consistently crosses your boundaries, reframing might help you approach the conversation calmly rather than from a place of rage. It gives you the clarity to express how you feel without letting anger cloud your message. Reframing can also help in situations where we're our own harshest critics. We often get angry at ourselves for mistakes or perceived failures. Maybe you missed an important deadline and your inner voice says, "I'm so irresponsible, I always mess things up." That self-directed anger can be debilitating, but if you reframe the situation, you might tell yourself, "I made a mistake, but this doesn't define me. I've learned from it and I'll do better next time." This shift in perspective turns anger into a constructive force, allowing you to grow rather than get stuck in self-blame. Another powerful aspect of reframing is understanding that not everything is about us. When someone behaves rudely or unfairly, it's easy to assume it's a direct reflection of how they feel about us. But more often than not, people's actions are a reflection of their own struggles, stress, or insecurities. That snappy remark from your coworker might have nothing to do with you. They could be dealing with personal challenges you know nothing about. By separating yourself from the situation emotionally, you protect your peace and avoid unnecessary conflict. Practicing reframing takes time and conscious effort. It's about catching yourself in those moments when anger starts to rise and asking, "Is there another way to look at this?" The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Over time, you'll find that situations that once triggered intense anger now evoke curiosity, patience, or even humor. In the end, reframing the situation is about reclaiming your power. You may not be able to control what happens to you, but you can control how you interpret it. And in that shift from anger to understanding, you'll find not just peace, but the ability to navigate life's challenges with greater resilience and clarity. Anger is a powerful emotion. When it hits, it feels like a surge of energy coursing through your body, demanding release. Your heart pounds, your fists clench, your jaw tightens, all physical signs that your body is gearing up for action. But here's the thing. While anger itself isn't inherently bad, what you do with that energy makes all the difference. You can let it consume you, leading to destructive words and actions, or you can channel it into something productive, turning that intense emotion into a force for positive change. Many people think the best way to deal with anger is to suppress it, to push it down and pretend it doesn't exist. But suppressing anger doesn't make it disappear. In fact, bottling it up often leads to an eventual explosion where all that built-up frustration bursts out in ways that are far more damaging than if it had been addressed earlier. Think of it like shaking a soda bottle. The more pressure you build up inside, the more explosive it becomes when finally opened. So instead of trying to suppress or ignore anger, the key is to channel it. Channeling anger means finding constructive outlets to release that energy without causing harm to yourself or others. It's about transforming that raw emotion into motivation, creativity, or problem solving. Let's start with the simplest and most immediate outlet, physical activity. When anger builds up, your body is literally primed for action. That's why exercise is such an effective way to release anger. Going for a run, hitting the gym, practicing martial arts, or even taking a brisk walk can help burn off the adrenaline and tension that come with anger. Physical activity allows you to release that pent-up energy in a healthy way, clearing your mind and reducing the emotional intensity. You've probably heard people say they feel better after a workout. It's because exercise doesn't just benefit your body, it also helps regulate your emotions. But physical activity isn't the only way to channel anger. Creative outlets can be just as powerful. Think about artists, musicians, and writers. Some of the most impactful works of art have been born from intense emotions, including anger. When you're feeling frustrated, try putting that energy into something creative. Write in a journal, paint, play an instrument, or engage in any form of expression that allows you to process your feelings. The act of creating not only gives you a way to release your emotions, but also helps you understand them better. Another way to channel anger is through problem solving. Anger often signals that something feels unfair or unjust, either in your personal life or in the world around you. Instead of letting that anger fester, ask yourself, what can I do about this? If you're angry about being treated unfairly at work, maybe it's time to have a constructive conversation with your manager or HR. If you're frustrated with a recurring problem in your personal life, channel that energy into finding solutions or setting boundaries. When you use anger as fuel for action, it becomes a catalyst for change rather than a source of stress. For larger societal issues that spark anger, such as injustice, inequality, or environmental concerns, channeling that frustration into activism or volunteering can be incredibly empowering. Many social movements and organizations have been driven by people who turned their anger into a force for good. Instead of feeling helpless or consumed by frustration, taking action allows you to contribute to positive change and feel a sense of purpose. It's also important to recognize that channeling anger doesn't always mean immediate action. Sometimes the best thing you can do is sit with your anger and reflect on what it's trying to tell you. Anger is often a secondary emotion, masking deeper feelings like hurt, fear, or disappointment. By taking time to understand the root cause of your anger, you gain clarity on how to address it. This might involve having honest conversations with the people involved, seeking professional guidance, or making personal changes that align with your values. However, not every situation requires action or confrontation. Sometimes channeling anger simply means finding healthy ways to let it go. Practices like meditation, deep breathing, or mindfulness can help you process emotions without becoming overwhelmed by them. These techniques teach you to observe your anger without judgment, allowing it to pass through you rather than take over. It's worth noting that learning to channel anger effectively is a skill that takes time and practice. It's easy to fall into old habits of snapping at others, withdrawing into silence, or stewing in resentment. But each time you choose to channel your anger constructively, you're rewiring your brain to handle future frustrations more effectively. Over time, you'll find that situations that once triggered intense anger become opportunities for growth and resilience. In the end, anger is just energy. It's neither good nor bad on its own. What matters is how you choose to use that energy. You can let it consume you, burning bridges and creating chaos in your life, or you can harness it, using it as a driving force for positive change, personal growth, and deeper understanding. The choice is yours. Staying calm in the face of anger isn't just about reacting well in the heat of the moment. It's about building a foundation of calm that becomes part of who you are. When calm is a habit, not just a reaction, you're better equipped to handle life's inevitable challenges with clarity, patience, and resilience. It's like strengthening a muscle. The more you practice calm in your everyday life, the more naturally it shows up when you need it most. Think about how we usually approach calmness. For many of us, it's something we scramble for when things go wrong. We wait until we're already upset, frustrated, overwhelmed, and then we try to find ways to calm down. But what if we flip that script? What if instead of seeing calm as something we reach for, we made it our default setting? When calm becomes a habit, it's not just a temporary fix, it's a way of life that helps prevent anger from taking control in the first place. One of the most effective ways to make calm a habit is through daily mindfulness. Mindfulness is simply the practice of being present and aware in the moment without judgment. It doesn't require hours of meditation or sitting in silence, though those practices can be helpful. Mindfulness can be as simple as paying attention to your breath while you wait in line, noticing the sensations in your body as you drink your morning coffee, or being fully present during a conversation without letting your mind wander. These small, everyday moments of mindfulness train your brain to stay grounded, making it easier to remain calm when life throws curveballs. Another key to building a habit of calm is identifying and managing your stressors before they escalate. Often we don't notice how much tension we're carrying until something pushes us over the edge. By regularly checking in with yourself, asking, "How am I feeling? What's weighing on me today?" you can address stress in its early stages rather than letting it accumulate. This might mean taking a short walk when you feel overwhelmed, setting boundaries with people who drain your energy, or simply giving yourself permission to rest when you need it. The more proactive you are about managing stress, the less likely it is to erupt as anger. Physical health also plays a significant role in maintaining calm. When your body is well rested, nourished, and active, it's easier to regulate your emotions. Lack of sleep, poor diet, and sedentary habits can all contribute to irritability and make you more susceptible to anger. Prioritizing regular exercise, balanced nutrition, and sufficient rest creates a strong physical foundation that supports emotional stability. Even simple changes, like drinking more water or getting fresh air during the day, can make a noticeable difference in how calm you feel. Another powerful tool for cultivating calm is practicing gratitude. It might sound cliche, but regularly focusing on what's going well in your life helps shift your perspective from frustration to appreciation. When you make a habit of noticing the good, whether it's a beautiful sunset, a kind gesture from a friend, or simply having a roof over your head, You build resilience against life's smaller annoyances. Gratitude doesn't erase challenges, but it balances them, making it easier to maintain calm in the face of adversity. Relationships also play a crucial role in your ability to stay calm. Surrounding yourself with supportive, understanding people creates an environment where calm can thrive. Conversely, toxic relationships filled with constant conflict and negativity can drain your emotional energy and make it harder to stay grounded. Part of making calm a habit is recognizing which relationships nurture your well-being and which ones might need boundaries or adjustments. Another habit to cultivate is pausing before reacting. It's tempting to respond immediately when something upsets you, whether it's a harsh email, a snide comment, or an unexpected challenge. But building in a brief pause, even just a few seconds, gives you the space to choose your response rather than reacting impulsively. This simple habit can be practiced in everyday situations, like pausing before replying to a text or taking a deep breath before responding in a tense conversation. Over time, this pause becomes second nature, giving you control over your emotions instead of letting them control you. Visualization can also help reinforce a habit of calm. Take a few minutes each day to imagine yourself handling stressful situations with grace and composure. Picture yourself remaining calm during an argument, navigating a tough meeting with confidence, or responding to a frustrating situation with patience. This mental rehearsal strengthens your ability to stay calm in real life because your brain becomes familiar with that response. Finally, be patient with yourself. Building a habit of calm doesn't happen overnight, and there will be times when you slip up or lose your temper. That's part of the process. What matters is recognizing those moments, learning from them, and recommitting to your practice. Each time you choose calm over anger, even in small ways, you're reinforcing that habit and making it easier the next time. In the end, making calm a habit is about creating a lifestyle that supports emotional balance. It's about weaving mindfulness, gratitude, self-awareness, and healthy habits into your daily routine so that calm becomes your natural state, not just something you chase after when things go wrong. When calm is part of who you are, you're not just reacting to life's challenges, you're navigating them with clarity, strength, and resilience.